I know there might be a few questions, and I'm happy to take them. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Veronica Tang from Global News. Thank you for taking our questions today. So you said yesterday, Minister, that you're going to be selling your shares in Morneau Chappelle, but I want to ask you today about the numbered Alberta company that was holding those shares. Why an Alberta company and not an Ontario one?
Well, when I talked yesterday, what I said was, it's really important in our country that if we're going to be able to attract people to get into public life, that we have a process for dealing with their attraction and getting their affairs in a way that they can actually do the work that we're intending to do. So what I did when I came into public office was I made sure that all of my assets were outlined to the Ethics Commissioner, because that's a process we have placed in Canada. She gave me advice on how I should best arrange those so I could ensure that I was free of conflicts. And as I've said to people, I followed her advice to the letter. And that, I think, is important. What I emphasized to people yesterday is that by following the rules and by living up to the highest standards, by respecting the Officer of Parliament, I expected that should work. I expected that doing what finance ministers before me had done, doing what the other 337 members of Parliament have done, is the right way to address that issue. And what I found is that there's some noise around this. There's people like you asking about specific issues in my personal finances. So what I've said is that to deal with that, I'm going to go farther than the Ethics Commissioner suggested. I'm going to take all my assets, put them into a blind trust, and then I'm going to sell through the Ethics Commissioner, or however we can do it, any of my shares or my family's shares in the company that I used to be part of, Morneau Chappelle. And this is a way to make absolutely sure, over and above what was required of me, that there is no question that I'm working on behalf of Canadians, trying to make a difference for the country.
And as a follow-up to that, your disclosure in the public registry, as maintained by the Ethics Commissioner, shows that you own or control several other numbered companies. So could you tell us, please, why numbered companies and what purpose do they serve?
So is the question why they're numbered companies and they don't have names?
Why you choose those companies?
Seriously, what I've done is exposed all my assets to the Ethics Commissioner. What I did yesterday was say, I'm going to take some additional steps that are beyond the steps that she recommended to me, and I'm going to make sure that my assets not only are in a blind trust, but I actually sell all my shares and all my family's shares in a business that I built for 25 years. So I came into office and met up to all the requirements, but I'm going to take that additional step. So the process we have in our country isn't that I report to journalists on my personal situation. It's that I report to the Ethics Commissioner, and I make sure that she fully understands my situation so we can get to the recommendations. By taking this additional step, a step not required, I've said that, while I was proud of my past and building that company, that I'm focused on making sure our economy is working for the future. And I'm taking that off the table. So, my sense is that this will absolutely ensure that I'm not dealing with this distraction and doing it in a way that, while nobody else before me has done it this way, is taking that additional step.
I just want to switch gears really quickly here. So there are Canadian families that have their children on a so-called no-fly list, and several Liberal MPs have also pushed you to kind of set aside funding to address this issue. So my question is, will there be funding in the 2018 budget to put together a redress system, and if not, what then is the solution that the government's proposing?
This is an important issue. We know that there are some people that are presented with a challenge because of our approach to making sure that we have a secure air traffic system, and that some people face a problem because they're on that no-fly list. We recognize its importance. Of course, Budget 2018 isn't here yet, so you'll have to wait.
Abigail Beeman, CTV. I was interested that the NDP is asking the Ethics Commissioner to look into specifically whether there was a conflict with Bill C-27, the pension bill. And I understand what you said about conflict of interest shields, but I'm wondering from your perspective whether you think they worked in all cases, or that shield worked in all cases.
The responsibility I have is to work on behalf of Canadians. What we do in this country is we work with the Ethics Commissioner to come up with the approach that is recommended to ensure that's the case. In my case, in the letter that I distributed yesterday to journalists, it said quite clearly that her best advice to me in terms of making sure that I didn't have conflicts of interest was to put in place a conflicts of interest screen. That screen's been in place since she said that. And, I have to take that advice. What I've said is that over and above that advice, I'm going to go further. My sense is that Canadians will see that the work we're doing is on their behalf, that in issues like pensions, as you mentioned, the work that we've done, enhancing the Canada Pension Plan, is good for all Canadians. And that is the kind of work that we're going to continue to do. I'll do it, enabled, because I can assure Canadians that following all the rules was done, and on top of that, I'm going to take steps that that people before me haven't taken, but steps to make sure that people have confidence.
But you're confident that there wasn't a conflict of interest there?
I'm absolutely confident.
Brent Davis from The Record. I know the Ethics Commissioner has recommended that the loophole surrounding indirect holdings be closed. In light of what's come out this week, will your government support closing that loophole?
We want to, on an ongoing basis, make sure that our system enables us to live up to the very highest standards. When I came into office, one of the things that the Prime Minister set as a tone is that we had to operate ourselves to the highest level of integrity. So we will absolutely make sure that our system is doing exactly that. My sense, as I just said, is that the approach that the Ethics Commissioner recommended of me did give me confidence that there were no conflicts. My additional conclusion is that I need to go further. With respect to the broader system, we will, on an ongoing basis, make sure that it works. I have not seen those comments from the Ethics Commissioner. They were to the previous government, not to me or to us. But of course, we'll always take those sort of ideas into consideration.
Thanks, Jeff. With 570 News. As you may know, Andrew Scheer is also in town today and got a chance to hear him talk. And just wondering how you respond to a criticism he made earlier today that was saying the Liberal government was trying to, sneak the tax reform bill past Canadians, and that it was, an attempt to deceive, is the assertion he was made. Just curious how you would respond to that claim.
Well, let's think about that. So we ran for office in 2015. On page 80 of our campaign document, which I'd encourage you to look at, it said that what we were going to do was we were going to lower the small business tax rate down to 9%. If we could make sure that there weren't advantages with Canadian-controlled private corporations that only went to the wealthiest of Canadians. Then what we did in Budget 2016, so this is in March 2016, is we said, it's really important to get at this. So I said, I'm going to set up a council of experts to look at this. We got the council of experts. We worked on it for a year. And then in Budget 2017, which was this past March, I announced that we were going to look at three things. Those three things, of course, were in our consultation paper that came out a few months later. So a process that started with an election campaign on which we were voted into office, that's culminated in a discussion with people having a point of view, and a conclusion that's going to allow us to do exactly what we said we were going to do about 2 years ago. I think that's a process that Canadians should be really proud that we live in a country, that that's the way it works. In a democracy, people vote for people based on what they say. They expect to have a voice. We gave people a voice. They expect us to get it right. We've gotten it right. And now what we're moving forward with is a system where every small business in this country will have a lower tax rate. A system where Canadians know that the next generation of Canadians will have opportunities that the last generation of Canadians had. I want to make sure that the kind of opportunities that my father had in 1966 when he started a business are there in 2026 and 2046. That's what we're working towards. So for the people in this room, it's not just for them, it's for their kids and their grandkids. We need to get this right. We've got a great country, and we need to preserve it. And we will continue to say what we're going to do and to do it right and to make a difference for the long term. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for being here.